Hello and welcome back to the Orlando Adventures podcast. I'm your host Russ, and today's episode is the Disney versus Universal Studios one. So we all know this is a topic, and this is an episode that I can't believe I haven't done. I'm going to be quite honest with you, and I think the reason why I haven't done it is because it feels a little bit risky. It does feel a little bit risky. It feels, to an extent, it almost feels a little bit clickbaity as well. And the reason why I say that is because I feel that it, as much as anything, it's just gonna it's almost like I'm starting an argument, and that's totally not where I'm going. So let's get that very, very straight away. I am not doing this episode to say that one is necessarily better than the other, but I will share my opinion on what I prefer. And just because I prefer it doesn't mean that you're going to prefer one over the other either. So I just wanted to do this episode because I do think it's a topic worth discussing. I think it's a topic that a lot of us obviously do get into, but I see quite a lot of the time some people are either very Universal or very Disney, and that's fine. Like whatever it is you like. If you've got a reason for liking one more than the other, that's absolutely fantastic. But don't diminish the other one as a result of it. Like, Disney is fantastic, Universal is fantastic. They're absolutely brilliant in their own right, in different ways. So I just wanted to get that clear from the start. Like, they obviously are in the same area. They are they in direct competition? That's a question we need to probably address straight away. Are they in direct competition? Arguably yes, and arguably no. Yes, they are, because they coexist in the same area and they operate in a very, very similar business style in terms of theme parks, in terms of rides, attractions, dining, food, character meets, all that kind of stuff. So in that respect, they're very similar. But in the respect of who their potential audiences are at times, I think that potentially they're actually quite different. So, some people might go to one over the other. Some people might go to both, and that's absolutely fine. I would probably argue that I think that Disney is maybe a little bit more family friendly. I feel like Disney is certainly aimed at a slightly younger audience at times. That's not to say that it's not aimed at adults, because it absolutely is as well. That's not to say we can't enjoy it as adults, because we absolutely can, and we obviously do. That's why I'm having this conversation. But some people may feel that potentially a park like Islands of Adventure it's got more of a grown-up feel, and I appreciate there's something like Zeus Landing, but I feel like the actual park itself is probably aimed at a slightly older age group, due to the fact that its ride requirements are slightly higher, slightly taller. So yeah, you're not aiming Islands of Adventure, for example, at 3 and 4 year olds, because what are they going to ride in that park? And it's not to say they can't ride stuff, but they're not going to get the most out of their experience that they would at potentially like Magic Kingdom. But one of the other main differences between Universal and Disney is that they've got completely different franchises. They've got different films, different franchises. I think of something like Fast and Furious as a franchise compared to, I don't know, Sleeping Beauty. Like, they're very, very different. They're very, very different, like, kind of demographic, different target audience, different styles of films. And obviously, some of the stuff that Universal owns, I'm not saying that it's all like Fast and Furious, because it's not. There are, there's things aimed at a younger audience, like, for example, Minions we're talking about. There's obviously a lot of Minions presence in the parks. So we've got to take that into account. But I do think that a lot of the Disney stuff is aimed more at a younger age group, which is fine. And above all else, let's just enjoy it. Let's just enjoy the fact that there's two different businesses who have fantastic theme parks, who have absolutely brilliant rides, brilliant attractions, brilliant kind of experiences in their theme parks. We're the winners. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million more times. We are the winners. We get to go to these parks, we get to enjoy them, and we get to enjoy all of them. And that is what it's all about. And it's not to say you can't like one more than the other, because absolutely you can. Like, I'm going to share with you my opinions on a lot of these, but that doesn't mean that we need to belittle one or the other. So let's just have a bit of respect for other people liking the other one. And, you know, if you're a fan of both, like I am, then that's great because I get to enjoy both. I get to enjoy going to Disney, but I then get to enjoy going to Universal Studios. And I love both of them for what they are and for the different experiences that you get from either of them as well. So what I've done is I've basically categorized various different things and I've picked what I prefer. And I'll give you a reason, as ever. I'll give you a bit of positive spin. I will give you a bit of a justification as to why I may have picked one over the other. And there's some which are so close that I probably haven't been able to pick either. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's kick off with roller coasters. That above all else is my favorite thing in a theme park. I'm a roller coaster guy. I love a thrill ride. So I'm gonna kick it off with roller coasters. And the question I've kind of put to myself is, who has the better roller coasters? Well, this is going to come as no surprise to any of you, but I think it's Universal. And I do. And I think that's because Universal have made a conscious effort in the past 5 to 6 years to hone in on roller coasters more. So, you know, Universal have always had roller coasters. I think of things like the Mummy. I think of Rip Ride Rockit. I think of the Hulk. I think of Dueling Dragons. They've always had a roller coaster presence in their theme parks. But with the addition of Velocicoaster and Hagrid's, I think that changed what their kind of approach is a little bit. I feel like they've gone for a more grown-up feel. They've gone for these bigger, more thrilling rides. And it's a conscious decision that they've made, because I think on the flip side of that, Disney don't have it as much. I think of Tron, I think of Everest. I'm trying to rack my brains for other ones. You've obviously got things like Big Thunder, you've got Seven Dwarfs. They aren't as big. And let's just be real. They're not as big rides, they're not as thrilling. And for me, that's why I would say that the better roller coasters obviously go to Universal. And I have completely forgot Cosmic Rewind. How have I managed to forget one of my favorite rides? That, to be fair, Cosmic Rewind would put Disney right up there. It really, really does, because it's a stunning ride, as I've obviously said many, many times. But for me, Velocicoaster and Hagrid's, they're non-comparable. They are not on the same page. Like as for me, as an Everest or a Tron, like Cosmic Rewind comes really, really close. But the fact that in Islands they've got those two, and I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Hulk. They're not not necessarily a fan of it, or a fan of Rip Ride Rockit. But at the same time, they're big rides. They're big thrill rides. So they might be a little bit rough. They might be a little bit kind of rough around the edges, but at the same time, like, if you love a thrill ride, you're going to love stuff like that. So there you go. I'm going to kick it off with Universal Studios for better roller coasters. So next up, I'm going to go with attractions. Now, attractions, I am basically classing as rides that aren't track based, so aren't roller coasters. So, for example, I think of, for Universal, I could think of, like, let's say something like Spider-Man. I could think of Doctor Doom. I could think of, like, any of the water rides. I could think of, I don't know, Minions, E.T., so on and so forth. And then against that, I suppose if we talk about the Disney options, the Disney options are, things like Haunted Mansion, Tower of Terror, Flight of Passage, Rise of the Resistance. I mean, I've just listed 4 absolute mega rides. And it's probably no surprise to a lot of people that the way I'm going on this one, it's got to be Disney. Because I think that, again, within the past, 6, 7 years, or maybe 7 or 8 years, the addition of Flight of Passage and Rise of the Resistance have really, really elevated the experience that you get from some of the rides at Disney. I think those two especially they're so good. They're so good. I think that they are 2 of the best rides in Orlando. I don't think there's any argument with that whatsoever. But I think it's so interesting, because you've got these kind of like this kind of like trackless, more like screen-based simulator ride from Disney, and they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And then you've got over the road at Universal, they've got some absolutely fantastic screen-based rides as well. But what they've obviously tried to hone in on more in recent history is the coasters. So I'm going coasters for Universal, but attractions for Disney, you know, for now. And obviously that might change with the with the opening of Epic Universe. We don't know. We don't know what the Battle for the Ministry ride is going to be like. We don't really know what the Dark Universe ride is going to be like either. And it's exciting. It really is exciting. The fact that we get to ride all of these, they're absolutely stunning. The next little section I've gone for is nostalgic rides. So if I'm thinking nostalgic, I'm thinking of rides that have been around kind of since day one. They're opening day attractions. They're rides that have kind of stood the test of time. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's got to be Disney. And the reason why is because there's more. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a negative to Universal, but Universal, and it's such a funny one. Because if we say nostalgic rides, I think a lot of the time, a lot of us will think of Back to the Future, Jaws, Twister, Dueling Dragons, but all of those have been replaced. They have. Universal, I think, are a lot more prepared. They're a lot more open to updating rides. I think they've got a little bit less space to play with, so they've got to be a little bit more brutal with the franchises that they've got at their disposal. So they've basically got to move them on if they decide that it's maybe a franchise that isn't as popular anymore. But I think of nostalgic rides. I think of Haunted Mansion. I think of Tower of Terror. You know, it's not a massive one for me, but like something like It's a Small World. You know, there's so many in Disney. There really, really are. There's a lot of kind of opening day rides and attractions that's still there and have stood the test of time. And I appreciate things like Space Mountain get a bit of stick from me, especially because it's rough, but it's still there. It's still a nostalgic ride. It's still a great ride, and it gives people good memories as well. So nostalgic rides for now, I've got to go with Disney. Next up, next little section I'm going to go for is shows. Now, it's a tough one because I think of shows, and if we're talking about Universal Studios, the options we've got are things like the Bourne Stuntacular. You've got smaller shows. You've got things such as like Celestina Warbeck and the Banshees, is it, in the kind of Diagon Alley area. You've got the Tri-Wizard kind of like rally thing. You've got the Singing Frogs. But these aren't as big in terms of like full-on shows. I think that the shows that they have had over the years have kind of like died out a little bit more, which means it's probably no surprise to anyone that that for shows it's got to be Disney, just purely based on the fact that they've got more of them. And I love the Indiana Jones one. I really enjoyed the Frozen one. Obviously, you've got things like Beauty and the Beast. There's more. There's the Lion King. You've got like Finding Nemo. There are more, and I think because there's more option. And I appreciate there's more parks. There's double the amount of parks essentially. There are going to be more options and more choices, but it seems to have been a conscious decision of Universal to have kind of phased some of their shows out over the years. And I'll be honest, I think it's a shame. And they've acknowledged that with obviously Epic Universe opening. They're going to have the How to Train Your Dragon show. And I think that'll be really interesting. I think that'll be a really good step for Universal. But I think they've got a long way to go to match Disney. And you've all heard me speak about it. I think the Bourne Stuntacular is a fabulous show. I really, really do. I think it's brilliant. And anyone who talks down on it, genuinely, I think you're wrong. Because I think it's an absolutely brilliant, brilliant show. And I think it needs a bit more respect on its name. I genuinely do. I actually think it's a top tier show. And I think that if there were more of those, Universal stand in good stead to be able to kind of like stake a claim in this kind of section. But for now, the level of quality, the quality of shows that Disney put out with the ones that I've kind of mentioned in the last couple of minutes, they're so good. They really, really are. And they're ones that you can go and watch over and over again. So for me, shows, it's got to be Disney for now anyway. Next couple of little sections are both food related. So quick serve foods. I'm thinking of like stalls and, you know, unique food options and snacks. And I'm going to be honest with you, and this pains me a little bit, but I can't think of that many for Universal. I think of things like a butterbeer. I think, and I'll do food and drinks. I think I can think of a butterbeer. There's the Shrexel, which you all know that I wasn't a huge fan of. And I don't know, I can't think of that many examples of like unique snacks and theme park snacks in the parks, if you know what I mean. Whereas I look at Disney and I think that they've kind of gone a bit more, all out on it, you know. I think of things like the cheeseburger spring rolls. You've got things like the cheeseburger pods. You've got more things like that. I think there's just a bit more variety. And I know it's easy to say because there's more parks again, but I think that they've probably hit the market in terms of they've got more viral foods and drinks in terms of on offer that more people literally go and seek out in the parks than what Universal do. I think that's probably a fair statement. And it is a shame because I'll be honest with you, I don't think that the snacks on offer in Universal are that strong. I've said that I'm a fan of a Florian Fortescue's ice cream. I think that's a top tier ice cream place. I really, really do in Diagon Alley. But beyond that and a butterbeer, I quite enjoy a pretzel, but it's standard theme park food. I don't think it's that much to get excited about, or a churro, or certainly not a turkey leg. But I can't think of a lot more other than that. And there might be some, and I suppose there's things like is it the Shark Attack? Is that what it's called? The one at Shea Alcatraz. That's quite a fun one. I think that would probably put it up there a bit more. But I think there's just more. There is just more high quality options from Disney. And it leads me in quite nicely, I suppose, to restaurants. And I feel like Disney have taken the last few categories. I'm gonna be real with you. They have. And they're going to take this one as well, because I think of restaurants and I think of unique restaurants. I think of themed restaurants. I don't think Universal's got that many. And if they do, they don't have that many that to me are fully memorable. I know as British people, there's obviously the conversation about Three Broomsticks, about like the Leaky Cauldron. You know, there's options. There's free broomsticks, for example. There are other options. I'm trying to wrap my brains of kind of places to go. There's like Richter Burger. There's Burger Digs. There's Louis for the pizza. There's Mel's Diner. There's Springfield. Like, there are some good food options. I think they're good, but I don't think that they're on the same page as Disney. There's Mythos. How did I forget Mythos? As best theme park restaurant for years, apart from in the Orlando Awards. We took its title off it. But in Disney, I think of things such as Yak and Yeti. I think of things such as, Rodeo Barbecue. There's a lot. There's a lot more. And, I don't want to keep going back to the fact that there's more at Disney, but there's more better options for restaurants, in my opinion. That there are a lot more places to eat. There's a lot more places that are themed to eat. There's a lot more places that have more themed foods and themed options. And we know that that's going to change with Epic. Obviously, I did an episode on foods at Epic Universe, and they've tried to go themed on every single one. And it's the move. It is the move. It's the way to go. I think just having like standard kind of places that do burgers and tenders is probably not the way anymore. I'm not saying don't have those. I think by all means, you've got to have that in a theme park or an option somewhere. And the same as Disney do anyway. But I think by having the themed restaurants, I think is more of an experience. It's more of an immersive experience. And it's the kind of thing that I think a lot of us are looking for nowadays. I think we want the most out of our experience, and we're prepared to pay for it. We are prepared to pay for it. We're prepared to pay for more experiences and more opportunities to go and do stuff in and around the kind of franchises and films and stuff that we love. So absolutely, I think that Disney do take this category kind of hands down in my opinion. The next little category I've got is lands. So I think of literally themed lands to an IP. And you know what? I'm not going to beat around the bush in it. I'll give this to Universal. I am. Universal are taking this one because I cannot look past Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade. And these have been around for a while now, but I can't look past them. I think that Pandora is wonderful. I think that Galaxy's Edge is wonderful. I think that there's some really, really good other themed areas in the Disney parks, but I don't think any of them come anywhere near close to the two Harry Potter areas. I think that those two areas are absolutely unmatched. They're top tier. They really, really are, and I love them. I love them to bits. I think that by having these super immersive lands that are, bring films to life are such an amazing route. And, it's exciting for what's to come as well, because obviously all of the areas in Epic Universe are themed. They're all IP heavy apart from Celestial Park. And I'm here for it. I'm in this day and age, I am here for it because I don't think there's that many people who are looking for generic theme park anymore. I think there's a lot more people who are looking for films coming to life. I'm not saying that the people who aren't keen on IPs are wrong. I don't mean they are, I'm not telling you your opinion's wrong. I'm just saying for me, I think that the IPs, I would rather see a film come to life than I would a kind of random themed land, if you get me. So yeah, lands for me, it's got to be Universal. I really, really do think it has. And next one, and this is difficult, and this is very, very subjective, is value. So value for money. And the thing is, I think a lot of people immediately are going to go straight for Universal. I'm going to call this one down the middle. And the reason why, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd have said Universal in a heartbeat. However, if you look at like a 14-day ticket for Disney is what, like 550. I'm not 100% sure, but call it £550. I think a 14-day pass for Universal is about 350 nowadays. I think that's off the top of my head. 350. Call it 350. So there's a £200 swing. So at face value, Universal looks like much better value. However, Disney have double the amount of parks. So you get double the amount of theme parks. And I appreciate you've got the same amount of days, so you can go to the theme parks less. But I think with that, that's why I got to call it down the middle. Because I think that Disney, they have more parks. I feel like they do have a little bit more on offer. So I've got to call it down the middle. I couldn't say that one was more value for money than the other because they are different price points. If they were both £350, Disney would be the better value for money because there's more parks. So it's difficult because they're not the same amount of parks. Once you add Epic Universe into that, obviously it's a different conversation because Epic Universe is definitely like a full day park. There's no argument with that. There's these arguments, and I'm not saying that I'm one of these people, but there is an argument that some people say that Animal Kingdom's not a full day park. That's up to you. I could quite happily spend a day there. I could happily spend half a day there, but I could happily spend half a day in Universal Studios as well. So, it's a kind of by the by. I don't think it's an argument worth having. Just spend as long a time in there as you enjoy having. So, yeah, value. I'm going to split it down the middle. Next little category is hotels. So hotels, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I don't think it's really an argument, but it goes to Disney. It's got to go to Disney because there are more, and they are themed. And this is my opinion again. I think because the hotels are more themed, I think it swings to Disney. I think that definitely with some of the Universal hotels, they're going for a bit more kind of like, they're going for like Helios is obviously going for a bit more kind of upmarket, fancy, it's in a park, but that was not open yet. So I can't really judge it off that. Obviously, I haven't been to a lot of these. I can't really judge that hard. But from my experience, from what I've seen, from what there is on offer, I think hotels has got to go to Disney. They've got, what, 5 times the amount of hotels or something like that city? Like, there's just more option. There is more option. There's more variety, I think, in terms of being able to get to, like, your transport to and from the hotels. There's various different ones in the Disney resort as well. So I'm going to give this one to Disney. Next little one is character meets. And I'll tell you what, I can't give you an answer, but I will discuss it briefly anyway. I can't give you an answer because it's not for me. I'm not a character meet guy. I can't see myself being a character meet guy anytime soon. But the thing is, I know that some people will be like, Disney's outfits are better. That's fine. Have that conversation. That's fine. But I think it's definitely personal preference. I know that sometimes the Marvel characters get a bit of stick because their outfits aren't, perceived as that good. It's because they're not MCU. It's because that they're wearing comic book accurate costumes. That's why I think some people perceive them to be not as good. That's fine. Again, it's opinion. I hold very little opinion on it because I don't do character meets, because I'm not going to do character meets anytime soon. But, I think I can appreciate good character costumes and good character interactions. And I've heard both sides. I've heard both sides that you can get amazing character meets at either Disney or Universal. Next little one, Entertainment Complex. And the reason I've titled it Entertainment Complex is because I didn't really know how else to compare them. But there is obviously City Walk for Universal Studios, and then there is Disney Springs for Disney. I am going to sit on the fence again. I'm going to sit on the fence because I don't think you can fully compare the two. I think that they're actually quite different. I think that they're different experiences. I think that they're both unique in their own way. They both have different options on offer. It's different. They're difficult because City Walk is literally on the way in or the way out of the parks. You have to go past City Walk to go into the theme parks. Whereas Disney Springs, they're not next to a theme park. You have to actively go to Disney Springs to go to Disney Springs. So I think they're non-comparable in that respect. Immediately, you can't compare them. Also, I feel like Disney Springs is definitely aimed at more kind of like a shopping, but also that it's more like you could spend a bit more time there. I feel like you could go to Disney Springs for a day and spend time there doing shopping, going to restaurants, chilling, like all this kind of stuff. I personally don't feel the same about City Walk because I don't think that's what it's aimed at. I feel like City Walk is very, very aimed at go in and grab some food, go and do some entertainment before a park or after a park. But I don't feel like you would necessarily go there as a full day's activity, in my opinion. And that's not to say you couldn't, because you absolutely could. You could go to the cinema, you could go and do the escape rooms, you could go and do this, that, and the other. But I feel like Disney Springs is certainly catered for that a lot more kind of directly. So I can't call them. I can't. I think they're both great. I think they're very different. I think it's a tie. So I'm sitting on the fence firmly, and I'm going to remain on the fence for the next one as well. Don't worry, I will actually give some opinions on the next couple. But the next one is water parks. I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit. However, the reason why is because I haven't been to the Disney ones. It's so difficult for me to comment on something I've never done. I don't really like commenting on things I haven't done because it feels unfair. It would feel really biased of me to just go, I think that Universal's water park in terms of Volcano Bay is better than Disney because it's the only one I've done. Now, at the same time, I've only done Volcano Bay because it's the one that's drawn me in. I have obviously had the facility, I've had the option, I've had the time to go to any of the Disney ones, but I've opted to never do so. Yet I've been to Volcano Bay probably 4 or 5 times. So there might be something said for that. There might be, but it's a difficult one. Like ultimately, I think that they're different. They're different in terms of what they offer. You know, Volcano Bay slightly newer. It's obviously the kind of like the new shinier one, but at the same time, it's it's not that new anymore. What is it? Probably it's got to be. I'm trying to think. It's probably 8 years old at this point. Is it? Probably 8 years old. So it's not a new park by a long shot, and it probably could do with a little bit of updating in areas at this point. But I can't really give you a full answer because I haven't done them all. So it's an interesting one. Maybe I'll get around to doing a Disney one later this year. I don't know. They're not high on my agenda, if I'm absolutely real with you. So next little one, I've got 2 more little sections. And the next little one is extra events. Now, when I say extra events, I think of things like Mickey's Not So Scary. I think of Halloween Horror Nights. I think of Jollywood Nights. I think of like, I don't know, some of the after hours events, some of the kind of extra of different things you can do. To be honest with you, having not done a lot of them, this is really difficult for me to comment. However, if I were to comment on what I would do, having done very little of them, I've got to give it to Universal. And I've got to give it to Universal based on realistically Halloween Horror Nights. I've never done Halloween Horror Nights. It's going to happen at some point. But I think the thing with Halloween Horror Nights is it draws a crowd on its own. Halloween Horror Nights is its own beast. It is the biggest event of the year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And, people can say that Mickey's Not So Scary is a mega event. It is. I don't think there's an argument there. But I think that Halloween Horror Nights, like big time, is a bigger event. I don't mean there's any argument on it. And, they clearly pull both big cues. But I think that Halloween Horror Nights is so much more of a dedicated event in terms of like unique activities, different kind of like mazes, different kind of scare zones, all that kind of stuff throughout the years. And it's bringing different franchises as well to the parks that potentially we don't have in the parks. I think it's got to be Halloween Horror Nights. I don't think there's really much of an argument there. I think anyone arguing otherwise is, I don't want to tell you you're wrong because it's opinion, but I feel like it would be really difficult to argue otherwise because I think that what Halloween Horror Nights brings to Orlando and brings to Universal Studios as well is unparalleled. I really, really do. I think it is its own beast. It's its own thing. It's its own kind of own thing in its entirety. And I think anyone doing anything else similar to Halloween Horror Nights is only ever trying to replicate it. That's all they're ever trying to do. Because I think that it's the big dog. It is the one. It's the main event. And that's fine. Universal do it exceptionally well, clearly. And the final little section that I've got to do a little comparison between Disney and Universal is future plans. So future plans. There's obviously a lot of future plans with regards to all of the announcements at D23. Universal, let's be real, they haven't announced a lot. However, for me personally, future plans, and this is going to change in 3 months' time, but future plans for me right now, it goes to Universal Studios. And the reason why is because of Epic Universe. Because they're bringing an entire new park, I think that's unmatched. I think that you can announce Villains Land for 6 years' time. You can announce Cars Land. You can announce like all of these different things coming to Disney, which is super exciting and I can't wait for. But I don't think that they come close to a new theme park. I think a new theme park is unmatched. It is, because if Disney announced a new theme park, we'd be absolutely beside ourselves. We would. So I think in terms of future plans, it goes to Universal. Like a new theme park is absolutely unparalleled. So yeah, It's got to be Universal for now. Obviously, we're going to get drip fed all of these amazing kind of updates coming to Disney, but Universal are going to do that as well. Like the moment Epic Universe opens, I can't see them not announcing what's going to go where Rip Ride Rocket goes, like where Rip Ride Rocket is. The announcements of what's going to happen with Simpsons, what's going to happen with Lost Continent, Fear Factor, updates to current rides as well. Like there's all this kind of stuff. And then obviously Disney are going to do different updates and stuff as well. And this is what I mean. I kind of go full circle. And this is why I kind of wanted to end on future plans, because we're always going to compare them. It's natural. We are always going to compare these two businesses because they do operate in the same area. They operate under a very, very similar kind of business model in terms of being theme parks in the Orlando area. And it's what we do as humans. It is so natural for us to compare them. But let's also just appreciate them. Let's appreciate them for what they are. Let's appreciate them for being these absolutely incredible, amazing theme parks that we're fortunate enough to be able to go and immerse ourselves into. It doesn't matter whether or not you're walking down Main Street or you're walking down Diagon Alley or you are going on Tower of Terror or you're on Spider-Man. Like in those moments that you're doing these things, you're in these parks, you're going on these rides, you forget about everything. You do, and you become so immersed, and you forget about everything else at home. You forget about the mortgage, you forget about work, you forget about bills, you forget about all that stuff, and you just get to become a child again. And I absolutely love it. It doesn't matter whether or not it's Universal, it doesn't matter whether or not it is Disney. I just love them. I absolutely adore both of them. So we don't need to get overprotective. We don't. And I see it at times, I do. But we don't need to get overprotective about which one's better. We don't need to kind of get in arguments about Universal having more immersive rides than Disney. Just enjoy whichever one you enjoy, but also enjoy both of them. Like, it's fine. It's fine to like both. It's not a problem. Like, I know that I say we, I don't include myself in it because I absolutely adore both. I'm not going to get funny about the fact that Universal has different rides to Disney and Disney has different rides. I'm not going to get picky over the fact that I'm only going to go and watch Disney films at the cinema. I like Universal films as well. I don't have a preference. Obviously, I go on about it a lot that I'm a big Marvel fan and I'm a big Star Wars fan. It just so happens they're owned by Disney, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm also a big Fast and Furious fan, so I'm not going to not go and watch Fast and Furious because it's not Disney. So that's kind of my point. My point is let's just love them both for what they are. Like they have such to offer us from both of these businesses and these companies, and everyone's entitled to like one more than the other. That's fine. It's fair by all means. And I'm not telling you don't share your opinion, not go for it, but let's just not get overprotective. Let's not get silly about it. Let's not kind of lose sight of the fact that actually we get to enjoy all of these. Let's just go and have fun, but let's not talk each other down. Banter's fine. I'm always good with that, but let's just not lose sight of the fact that these amazing theme parks are such an opportunity at escapism. There's such an opportunity for us to just go and be ourselves and go and have fun and enjoy ourselves and enjoy time with family and making memories. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I mean, I'm intrigued to know what your opinions are as well, because a lot of you might disagree with me, and that's fine. Like, let's have conversations about it. Let's have conversations about, what is it you think makes one, better for you than the other. It's not a problem. It's a good place to have a conversation about it. It's a conversation, not an argument. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I really do. This to me is like a day one episode. This is a standard Orlando Adventures episode. I do enjoy doing these. I really do. I enjoy kind of talking about, my opinions of stuff as much as anything. Like the fact that you're all invested in my opinion as well. And I'm not saying that my opinion is right. I'm just saying it's my opinion, and it's all good. So, I really appreciate all of you, and I haven't said this for a while, but keep sharing it. Keep sharing the pod. Keep tagging me in it. Keep messaging me. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and it means the world. And this podcast is not quite even a year old yet, so I still need you. I still need you all. I still need you all to, to help me, to tell me that you're listening to the podcast, to tell me you're enjoying it, to tell me what episodes you want me to do. Like the podcast has been immensely successful, and I will always say that. I'll always be honest. It's done amazing. It's doing amazing. It grows month on month, but it can't grow without all of you. It really, really can't. And I can only keep doing this as long as I have such amazing support and as long as I keep loving it. And luckily, I absolutely adore doing this. So, I appreciate each and every single one of you. I really, really do. But keep sharing it. Keep telling me you're enjoying it. Leave a review. Leave a review. That's something that I've never really asked for. But leave a review, whether that's on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. If you're enjoying the pod, tell me about it. If you're not enjoying the pod, tell me about it. Like, I'd love to have the conversation, but I appreciate each and every single one of you. I really do. I love this community. I love doing this podcast, and all of you are absolute legends. So once again, thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you all in the next one.